Summer in West Lafayette ended with attention focused on the expected happenings in Purdue's Ross-Age Stadium. And 65,000 happy fans were not disappointed on opening day. Sunny skies, a cool breeze, a great band, a new golden girl, a frisbee catching dog, the Wisconsin Badgers, and the Peach Bowl champion Boilermakers, featuring the junk defense and Mark Herman. Herman provided the spark, hitting 20 out of 26 for 291 yards and 4 touchdowns. The performance moved him past Bob Greasy's all-time Purdue passing figures and into second place behind Mike Phipps. The Associated Press recognized Herman as Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week for his effort against the Badgers. The most exciting moment came in the third quarter when Herman found Ray Smith streaking down the sidelines for 73 yards and a touchdown, Mark's longest in Ross-Age Stadium. Senior center Pete Quinn, always alert to what's going on around him, was credited with his first career touchdown. The defense was ready to play too. Mike Marks bats away a pass, and Calvin Clark grabs it. Junior in Tom Kingsbury had 12 solo tackles. Bill Kay intercepted 2 passes. Calvin Clark and Marcus Jackson teamed up for big sacks. And it was Purdue's 7th consecutive home field victory. The Boilermakers' trip to sunny California provided time to visit Universal Studios. Also took a trip to Pasadena for what everyone hoped would be the first of 2 trips to a famous football landmark. Then it was the Los Angeles Coliseum and a UCLA team unimpressed by Purdue's number 6 national ranking. The Bruins tallied 3 times before the Bulls untracked themselves in the second quarter, with passes like these to Ray Smith. And Mike Harris, who enjoyed a big day in his native Los Angeles. On the next possession, Herman directed another successful drive. To Harris. And Dave Young. In the fourth quarter, freshman Larry Gates stepped in for a dazed Herman and authored a Purdue rally. He took the Boilers 73 yards in 11 plays and connected with Dave Young. But it wasn't enough, and the Boilers suffered their first loss, 31-21. Then it was home again to play host to number 5 ranked Notre Dame. The largest crowd ever to see a football game in the state of Indiana, 70,567, witnessed another fine performance by the junk defense, which shut down the Irish second-half come-from-behind rally and held them to 92 yards rushing. Sophomore Marcus McKinney and senior Wayne Smith teamed up on pass defense. Senior Mark Johansson on the blitz. Senior Keena Turner stifles a pass. All Big Ten and All-America middle guard, senior Ken Lauschen stops Vegas Ferguson. Tom Kingsbury gets a piece of Ferguson. McKinney gets his first career interception. And Turner gets his hands on Ferguson. But the Purdue offense also had to come from behind in the early going to offset a 20-7 deficit. The running game picked up 169 yards. Junior John Macon got 86 yards. Sophomore Wally Jones had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Herman, ranked first in Big Ten passing and total offense, completed 14 of 20 passes for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, giving him 40 for his career, easily a Purdue record. The sweet revenge read Purdue 28, Notre Dame 22. The Oregon Ducks journeyed east to sample some Big Ten hospitality, and Purdue proved an inhospitable host. On his third play, Herman connected with Ray Smith to become Purdue's all-time passing completion leader with 376. 12-yard gain also put him over the 5,000-yard plateau in passing yardage. Then, overcoming a bad case of fumbleitis, the Boilers staged a running circus featuring John Macon and Wally Jones. Macon rushed for 106 yards and 21 carries. Jones chalked up 156 yards in 30 carries and 2 touchdowns. Purdue next took to the road to visit the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. Mark Herman is now second in the nation in NCAA passing statistics. But the Gophers hadn't heard Purdue's preseason plaudits and spoiled the Boilers' Rose Bowl hopes, despite some fine performances by tight end Dave Young, whose great catch at the 5-yard line set up this Wally Jones score. When it was over, Minnesota had won it 31-14, and Purdue's back was against the wall. Back in Ross-Age Stadium against Illinois, Purdue regained its winning touch. The running attack amassed 245 yards. And that made passing easier for Mark Herman. He hit 11 of 18 tosses for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those 114 yards gave him a career total of 5,452 yards, breaking Mike Phipps's Purdue mark of 5,423. In the second quarter, Herm connected on a 25-yard pass to former Carmel, Indiana prep teammate Bart Burrell. That set up senior fullback Mike Augustiniak's first career touchdown. The final score for Purdue came in the third quarter as Herman again found Dave Young in the end zone. Proceedings ended 28-14, Purdue. Defending Big Ten co-champ Michigan State had revenge in mind for its only league loss of 78 when the Boilers came calling. The Purdue defense, mindful of the Boilers' 10-year victory drought in East Lansing, had perhaps its greatest day in the school's history. Nearly 80,000 watched as the Spartans started their first series of downs. Sacks by Marcus Jackson. Calvin Clark. And Jackson again. A net minus of 16 yards, setting the tempo for the game. Near the end of the first quarter, a Burt Vaughn pass was picked off by cornerback Wayne Smith, who went 42 yards for the first touchdown. John Seibel kicked the extra point. The defense struck again and again. Tina Turner slammed into Steve Smith. And Calvin Clark picked off the loose ball and rambled 7 yards with it. Purdue corralled 14 tackles for losses, and State was held to minus 5 yards rushing, an all-time Spartan single-game record for rushing futility. State finally reached the Purdue end zone in the game's last minute, but the Boilers have begun to make their presence felt. Homecoming at Purdue means color, pageantry, excitement, the new Boilermaker Extra Special, and in 1979, Northwestern University. Purdue's first score came in the second quarter. Herman hit Wally Jones for 20 yards. Then Jones plunged in from the 6. Starting the third quarter, Herman hit Mike Harris for 21 yards. Four plays later, Jones again put the ball in the end zone. On the last play of the third quarter, Herman completed an 8-yard pass to Jones and became the Big Ten's greatest passer in history by surpassing the 5,706 yards of Michigan State's Ed Smith. The final score came as Herman teamed with flanker Mike Harris. Purdue stood 6-2 and in third place in the conference. A bright, crisp, sunny afternoon in Iowa City, and two emotional football teams in a classic gridiron battle. With Purdue hurting from several injuries, new faces surfaced. One was number 13, Benny McCall, a third-string tailback just 1 week earlier. He came through with a great performance, piling up 191 yards via the rush and pass receptions. On the first Purdue touchdown drive, Herman hit Burrell with a 19-yard pass. Then he connected with Dave Young for 6 points. Young's 16th career touchdown pass and one lone TD grab away from the Purdue career record. Later in the second quarter, Herman found McCall for 17 yards and another touchdown. The Purdue defense, rated number 1 in the Big Ten, was brilliant with 8 quarterback sacks. Calvin Clark had 3 for 16 yards lost. Tina Turner put the Boilers in business for the winning touchdown when he blocked this Iowa punt. And on the 6th play, McCall found pay dirt. At the end of the fourth quarter, a last-ditch 4th down attempt by Iowa is foiled by a great effort by Wayne Smith. When the clock ran out, Purdue had its 19th consecutive win over Iowa. The Boilermakers seniors faced a do-or-die assignment in their final home appearance when Michigan's powerful Wolverines came calling. Cornerback Bill Kay led the charge by intercepting his 4th, 5th, and 6th passes of the season and recovering one Michigan fumble en route to earning Sports Illustrated's College Defensive Player of the Week award. His first helped set up this touchdown by Ben McCall. Linebacker James Looney helped make Michigan's punting game ineffective. The defense held the Wolves to just 99 yards on the ground. Michigan managed to convert only one of 7 third down situations. At the start of the third quarter, Purdue took over on the Michigan 25. Herman found Burrell on the sidelines. Ben McCall took it inside the 1. Then Mark Herman plows in. It was the second rushing TD for the Carmel, Indiana junior. His first came in last year's Peach Bowl win. In the fourth quarter, John Seibel nailed his first career field goal, and Purdue had a 17-6 lead. Linebacker Mike Marks intercepted a pass. And 6 plays later, McCall drove in from 9 yards out with a little help from senior guard Dale Schwann, making it 24-6 Purdue. Wolverines stormed back with 2 touchdowns to come within 5 points. With less than 3 minutes left, they battled to the 2-yard line. On 4th down, Looney made this game-saving stop. Purdue fans would have a week to savor a great victory, but the team's attention would be directed toward retaining an old oaken bucket. For the first time in many years, 2 bowl-bound teams met in one of college football's greatest rivalries. The defensive line was awesome from the beginning. Big sacks in IU's first possessions. Then the offense caught fire. Herman riddled the Hoosier defense with a stadium record 269 yards in the air. Mike Augustiniak dove over for the first of his 3 touchdowns of the day. Following an Indiana touchdown, a Purdue drive was highlighted by Ben McCall. The 41-yard run was Purdue's longest of the year. McCall's ensuing touchdown made it 21-7 Purdue. In the third quarter, Purdue set up another TD with a pass to McCall. Another to Burrell. Then John Macon went the last 7 yards. Indiana scored twice, and then Purdue's John Seibel added a field goal to his 4 PATs. Then the Boilers marched downfield for one more touchdown to put the icing on the bucket, or cake. The victory locked up a solid second place in the Big Ten and an invitation to Houston's Bluebonnet Bowl. Again presided over the annual football banquet as the Boilermakers pinned the 37th P to the chain on the old oaken bucket. Purdue took its success story deep into the heart of Texas for a New Year's Eve date with Tennessee's Volunteers in Houston's Bluebonnet Bowl, marking the Boilermakers' second consecutive bowl appearance and an opportunity to become the school's first 10-game winner. The Boilers were made to feel right at home when they were outfitted with cowboy boots and 10-gallon hats as the first order of business upon arrival in Houston. A poolside luncheon followed. The team now was ready to sample some Lone Star State hospitality, which began at the Regal Ranch with a genuine Texas-style barbecue. Some hoofing. And some singing by none other than Purdue's less than subtle locker room crooner, offensive center Pete Quinn. The usual Bowl Awards banquet was another highlight of the week in Houston, which brought head coach Jim Young an oil painting he's sure to treasure. The following day, the team was treated to a seafood luncheon at the historic San Jacinto Inn. And a tour of the battleship Texas, fulfilling the team's aesthetic obligations and satisfying the appetites of all. The Boilermakers then returned to business with the arrival of New Year's Eve. The beautiful Astrodome, which more than lived up to the expectations of the Purdue party, was a fitting and glamorous setting for the season-ending spectacle. Purdue looked intent upon making short work of the Southeastern Conference Volunteers in the first half, as it moved the ball seemingly at will. Here, quarterback Mark Herman finds flanker Mike Harris for a 15-yard pass completion. And fullback Mike Augustiniak rips the UT defense for a 9-yard gain. Purdue's first touchdown came on this slashing 6-yard run by tailback Ben McCall, the late-season sensation who continued his fine play on New Year's Eve. Now in the second quarter, Herman connects with a diving Bart Burrell from 12 yards out for Purdue's second touchdown. Moments later, Purdue All-America and Academic All-America middle guard Ken Lauschen, the squad's most decorated player in 1979, puts the finishing touches on the one-sided first half with this tackle for loss. At intermission, Purdue led 14-0. But despite the ease with which it was accomplished, fears lingered. The Boilermakers engineered 8 of their 9 first-half possessions into drives that reached inside the Tennessee 25-yard line and enjoyed a whopping 19-5 advantage in first downs and 307-71 margin in total yardage, yet had just 14 points to show for their dominance. The Boilermakers came out with their 6 guns a-blazing in the second half, too. Here's their second offensive play from scrimmage, another Herman to Burrell pass completion, this time for 18 yards. 6 plays later, Herman hooks up with All-America tight end Dave Young for a 12-yard touchdown strike. It was the 17th career TD grab for Purdue's 1979 Most Valuable Player, equaling the Purdue career record of former Boilermaker and Houston Oiler Jim Byrne. However, with that touchdown, the momentum switched. Tennessee rallied to take a 22-21 lead with only 3:50 left to play. It was time for some last-minute heroics, and Herman responded with his Heisman Trophy potential for 1980 with a game-winning 80-yard, 10-play drive. It opened with his 8-yard swing pass to tailback Wally Jones. Next, Herman again found Burrell for Bart's 8th and final reception of the evening, and Purdue was in Tennessee territory again. 5 plays later, only 1:36 remained. And for the 18th time in his career, Herman found Young all alone at the goal line, and Purdue had pulled out a 27-22 victory, while Young became the school's all-time touchdown reception leader with 18. The anticipated postgame bedlam and jubilation reigned as the Bluebonnet Bowl championship trophy was presented to the Boilermakers and head coach Jim Young. And Herman accepted the Offensive Most Valuable Player Award, his second such honor in his many bowl appearances. And as the Boilers headed for their locker room, they and their loyal fans, both back in Indiana, and the estimated 10,000 who journeyed to Houston for the Bluebonnet festivities, were basking in the glory of becoming the first 10-game winner in Purdue football history and firmly establishing the Boilermakers as a bowl regular. For the second consecutive year, the Boilermakers and their coach named Young had bettered a tradition.